It's a beautiful day to you, our lovely and smart investors, both at home and also in diaspora. Good afternoon. On today's episode of Property Matters, we're going to be talking about, we are going to continue our episodes on why government take possession of landed property. For people who followed, who have subscribed, I want to say a very big thank you to you. And I also want to quickly seize this opportunity to encourage others who have not to do so, because here we're going to be doing a critical analysis of what the Nigerian real estate market looks like, different government policies. So let's quickly dive into today's topic. So yesterday I said I was going to explain some of the procedures that are required for you to get title perfection on any of your property. And yesterday I also established that if you're buying a property that is accession in process, you don't need any soothsayer to tell you that you're buying a government land, regardless of what the realtors have told you. Forget those, they are being paid to do what they are doing. So sometimes it is also good, to seek the help of a professional so that you can be guided accurately on the path of making an intelligent and, of course, a safe real estate investment. So let's quickly dive into it. Yesterday I said I was going to shed more light on how you can get to title perfection. So let's assume you bought a property that's accession in process. The very first thing you need to understand basically is that accession in process means you need to get a registered survey and some other documents. So making this very easy for you, first of all, you need to seek the service of a professional registered surveyor who is going to guide you through the process. But basically, once it's an accession in process, you get a registered survey, and of course some documents will be requested. So with those documents, inclusive your registered survey, you can file for a government allocation. Government allocation simply means that you're buying the property again from the government. That's why sometimes you'll find out that some companies here at Ibejuleki, some of their property comes with government allocation. And what that simply means is that they have approached the government, they have passed some necessary conditions that needs to be met before the you will observe that most of those companies come with government allocation. Of course, these guys have approached the government, like I said initially. They've met some certain conditions, and of course the land has been given. So with the government allocation on your plot of land, then you can also proceed to get CO. What most people do most times is that they don't perfect the title, they leave it at government allocation. That obviously is not also wise, because you see, like I said in the previous video, no state in Nigeria has the history of land grabbing than Lagos State. So as far as Lagos State is concerned, you have to do what you need to do in order to secure your property. Okay, so let's quickly go into accession. When you talk about accession are divided into two. We have village accession and we have gazette accession. Now, a gazette accession is an accession that has been recorded and published in a document. I'll say it again. A gazette accession is an accession that has been recorded and published in a document. So sometimes such property comes with a gazette number. So that means with that gazette number, you can trace that accession. Meanwhile, a village accession basically is an accession that has been granted, but it has not been gazetted. So you need to understand the types of accession. So sometimes when a property comes as village accession and gazette accession, so the gazette accession basically is what many people don't even call it as gazette accession. They don't say it's gazette. So whether it is gazette or gazette accession, it's still the same thing. Now, what is now the difference between the gazette accession and the normal accession? Now, with a gazette accession, you can start processing your governor's consent. It is as easy as that. Some criteria, once you meet some criteria at the Ministry of Land and Building in Lausa, all they just ask you to do is just proceed with some documents, and of course you have to pay. You pay some amount of money for that to be granted. So once such criteria have been met with your gazette or gazette accession, you can file in for your governor's consent. So, and consent, once you have made some certain conditions, consent comes out a month to, depending on the surveyor working on it, and obviously the officer in charge of it. So that's the difference between the words they get. So for the village accession, you can't process a governor's consent. What you will do basically is that since that accession has not been gazetted, you will file for a government allocation. Do you understand? So once you file for the government allocation, once you meet the criteria, so from the government allocation, you can actually process your C of O or your governor's consent. So that is the major difference between the Gazette excision and the village excision. I hope that has been clear. So that is one of the procedures that you need to do. Recently, there was a few weeks back, I was at Aja and I was driving past that place and I saw a particular property at Aja. Of course, these properties are facing each other. It's just the road that separates them. And I found out that the one on the right side of the road is selling for 30 million naira and the one opposite it is selling for 8 million naira. So when I went further in doing my due diligence, I found out that the one selling for 30 million naira has C of O, while the one selling for 8 million naira, according to the developer, has freehold. And I was like, wow, freehold in Naija. Of course, that's the wonders of real estate in Lagos, Nigeria. So that simply means that the location basically plays an important role. But when you see price variation in properties, before you pay, you have to ask questions. That's why most times I'm not an advocate of cheap properties, because of the fact that it is better. Most times I usually tell people that it is better for you to buy a property that has a title, half plot of a property that has a title, than for you to get acres of untitled property. So these are some of the challenges that people face over time when they're doing properties. All right, so these are some of the things I said I was going to do. So let's go to the process of C of O. Okay, so I said once your property has a C of O and you're buying a property that has a C of O from someone, like, what you need to do basically is that don't just say you have a deed of assignment only on that property. You need to go as far as getting the governor's consent, because why? The C of O in that property is in the person's name. So the person, sometimes, if he's not an honest person, can still lay claims on that land, provided that the C of O is in his name. So what you now need to do basically is that after you've acquired the property, you go straight to Alausa and seek for a governor's consent. You know, these are some of the things that most people don't understand. They say the land has C of O, it's okay. Yes, it's okay. But whenever there's issues on that land, when you're approaching Lagos State government will only recognize the person whose name is on the title document. I'm going to say this again. Lagos State government will only recognize the person whose name is on the title document. So let's say, for instance, there's a case of having how to relocate the person, or government wants to use that project and they want to compensate the person. The only person that gets the compensation is the person whose name is on the title document. A lot of realtors will not tell. Many of them don't even know. So that's why I said that even if you're buying a property, make sure that the title is in the name, or the title is in the name of the company that is selling for you, so that whenever there is issue, whenever there are some things that needs to be rectified in the future and you approach government, once the title document is carrying your name or the name of the developer that sold the place to you, of course, it will give you adequate, information and things like that. So these are some of the critical things that most people don't understand, and they just buy. And this is why when governments take possessions of property, this is why some people don't get compensated. That's just it. You cannot have a land that is excision in process, government has taken it from you, and you expect them to give you compensation. No, you can't say you have land in the Bejuleki, for instance, and it says freehold, and you have not perfected the title document, and you expect them to give you compensation. Who does that? Even people who even have C of O, they have to go through some processes before they are adequately compensated. So these are the importance of title perfection. I really can't stress this enough, but I believe you have understood the reason why you have to be very careful whenever you're getting real estate. So most times when it is cheaper, in most cases it's always dangerous. Sometimes when it is let's say, according to you, you say it's expensive. It's better expensive for you to be safe than cheaper for you to be risky. Of course, that's a decision that you will have to make on yourself. So I still remain your number one property consultant, and of course, I hope you've gotten value. I have also said the things I said I was going to say in the video, and I want to believe that you've made a lot of clarifications. I love the fact that I have explained everything thoroughly. And of course, if you have any other questions, you can give us a call, you can send us a message, and we'll be glad you did. Thank you very much. Endeavor to subscribe to this channel. Have a nice day.